Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, better known as HUD, with us right now. Secretary, always great to have you. The administration is saying this is long overdue. That is leveling or trying to level the playing field for blacks and others who have been behind the eight ball when it comes to getting mortgage lending, business recognition, and a whole host of other things. What do you think?
Well, it was a topic of much discussion during the previous administration, and I think we made a lot of progress. You know, I don't think that it really does any good to sit there and say, we did better than you did. But what we really need to do is build on what each administration previously has done. When you look at what's happened over the last 100 years, there's been a vast improvement. Is there still room for more improvement? Absolutely. And when we're talking about making more grants available for small and disadvantaged businesses, communities, I'm all for that. As long as we don't attach, you know, a particular race or color to it, let's deal with those who are disadvantaged, those who are small, those who have a lack of opportunity. That's what this country is about, providing opportunities for people.
Now, the one argument I think the president is going to make, Secretary, is that by almost all the numbers, at least the conventional numbers, mortgage application approval, home ownership, African Americans in general trail and sometimes substantially trail white homeowners and potential homeowners. Do you agree that there is a problem there, or is this a statistical anomaly?
There is definitely a problem there, particularly, you know, when we're dealing with wealth and wealth gaps. Home ownership is the key factor. The average net income of a renter is $5,000 net worth. The average net worth of a homeowner is $200,000. That's a 40-fold difference. So we should be looking at what are the reasons that that discrepancy exists. And you can throw money at it all you want. We've been doing that, you know, since, you know, Johnson's Great Society, and that hasn't really helped. What really did help quite a bit just recently is creating a situation, an economic situation, by having an appropriate tax structure and regulatory environment that caused businesses to blossom. And there were so many businesses being created, you know, they were looking for people to work there. The black unemployment rate went down not to a 10-year low, not to a 20-year low, but to the lowest it's ever been. The wealth gap was starting to be filled. And what that tells you is that the way you fix that is you create the right environment. You don't just grow government and throw more programs at it.
So, Secretary, depending on what we hear out of the president, he's not been short on spending to what he says turn an economy around and move us in the right direction. Now, by the latest math, his budget is a $6 trillion plus budget. And I'm just wondering, he says the difference with his and his plans is that he pays for them. Do you think, A, that he does pay for them? And B, do you think we need that spending?
I certainly wish we did have a way to pay for them right now. They're going to fall on the laps of our children, our grandchildren, and the people who are following us. And that's why Thomas Jefferson wisely said that it is immoral to steal from future generations. Yes, there is going to be a significant price.
But wasn't your old boss doing that? No, Secretary, wasn't your old boss doing that? I'm not casting political aspersions. It's been a bipartisan buying binge, right? So who are you
there's no question.
Representing that administration
no question.
or others from prior administrations to judge what's happening now?
As you may recall, when I was running for president, that was a big deal for me, talking about deficit spending and what we are doing to those in our future. And it doesn't matter who does it, Republican or Democrat. It's the wrong thing to do. And we can't use what one did as an excuse to, you know, put it on steroids for the next group. We need to start thinking about all of our people, what we need to do for them.
So when we look at this spending that's coming up, and you know, the administration is saying you're making investments here, particularly in the housing area for minorities, and that a rising tide will lift all of those boats. Do you believe that?
We've already seen that it does. but we also ought to be looking at some of the real reasons that wealth gap exists. You know, the Brookings Institute did a very good study on poverty a few years ago, and they concluded that there were 3 or 4 things that a person could do to reduce their likelihood of living in poverty to 2% or less. Now, that should perk all of our ears up. What are those things? Number 1, finish high school. Number 2, get married. Number 3, get a job. Number 4, wait until you're married to have children. Just do those things. You're very unlikely to live in poverty if you do those things. And you're much more likely to be able to realize the American dream. Our policy should be aimed at things like that, not at just throwing money at people without providing, you know, the appropriate background in order to use it correctly. Case in point, we're all familiar with the stories of people who win the lottery. 60% of them end up worse than they were before. So when you just throw money at a problem without really understanding what you're doing, you're not necessarily doing people a favor. And I think a lot of people in the minority community just say, get out of our way, and let's have a flattening of opportunities so we're all on an even playing ground.
All right.
And stop trying to manipulate us and manipulate everything that we do.
Ben Carson, very good catching up with you again, sir. Thank you very much for taking the time. The former HUD Secretary Ben Carson under Donald Trump.